We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today, so we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been
Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your weekdaily morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis. And in today's episode, I am set up in my dining room. Now, something you might not know about our stream, and pardon if there's a little bit of echo, something you might not know about our stream is that I actually have the ability to stream from anywhere in the world because I have this really cool backpack, and I have a tripod in it, I have all my gear, my dinner table looks like a straight-up movie studio right now with the camera and the mic and everything, and I have the ability to live stream from anywhere in the world, and I wasn't able to live stream from the office today, so I figured I'd mix it up a little bit and set up right here on my dinner table. So, as you can see, this is where I normally sit to eat. Last night, what was it? Chili. Oh man, it was so good. But today, we are going to be having some tea and crypto. Now, I'm not a tea drinker. I'm not one of those dirty tea drinkers from across the pond that we threw off our backs about 250 years ago, but I do like tea every once in a while. So, today, I'm drinking some Earl Grey tea out of this mug that my wife got me. It says husband on it, and the one I like on there is where it says unconditional love, infinity. That's very much what I strive to be. As I said, welcome to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your weekdaily morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis, and we are really excited to bring you some TA on Bitcoin today because Bitcoin recently attempted to break above a critical level at $25,200. And now we are very much hoping that Bitcoin will be able to actually do that. It has had a bit of a correction over the last over the last 24 hours or so. It was about to break bullish right as we finished the stream. And literally as I hit end stream yesterday, Bitcoin went through a pretty sizable, very fast correction, but then got caught. There's a lot of things I want to dive into there. I'm going to talk a little bit quieter than I normally would just because it should help with the echo. As I said, I'm in my living room, so I'm not in my professional studio with all the sound panels and everything right now. So hopefully the sound isn't too bad. I am using the same microphone I normally do. I have about 3 of these, so I've got this one in my travel bag. Give me a 1 in chat if you'd like to see the travel bag we normally use. Anyway, we got Wisely T in chat encouraging me to go on around the blockchain. I would love to go on around the blockchain. A lot of people are saying that my camera is auto-tracking. It's supposed to do that, though, sweetie, as far as you mean when it did this? I'm confused. Oh, the camera's moving. Right, I noticed that. Yeah, I'm not really sure why it's doing that. I'd have to go behind the camera and turn that off. So apologies for that. That is called... Actually, hang on. Give me 1 second. Maybe, if I remember correctly, that should be on the lens. It's been a while. Give me 1 second. I'm going to check that. Stabilizer off. There we go. Luckily, did I get that right? Haha. That is the... For anybody who's a camera nerd, that is the, that's not the in-body image stabilization, that was the stabilization on the camera lens itself. So I turned that off, thank you. I have not used this camera lens in a very long time to shoot. So anyway, we got 200 people in chat here today. Let's go ahead and give a shout out to all of our members. We got Daz Meekin in chat, said good morning everybody. Good morning to you, Daz Meekin, and good morning to Mike Lowry. Muhammad Baber said, Jebb, the man of God. I certainly strive to be a man of God. I am not the man of God. That is our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But I certainly strive to be a man after his own heart, just like David was. Adam Rourke said, cam auto tracking. Looks like you guys have some camera background and some camera experience in you. I forgot that it's actually on the lens. I thought it was the in-body image stabilization. I'm shooting on a Canon EOS R with, this is actually the kit lens. My other really nice lens is at the office. Rick's Shack said, Jebb is a legend. I don't know about that, but thank you so much. All right. A couple of people are saying low audio from where I'm able to monitor it. It seems like the audio is fine. So if there is an issue with the audio, I can go ahead and turn it up right here a little bit, I think. Yeah, there we go. Tell me if that helped at all. Hopefully that helped. All right. Good morning, Jebb. Thanks for all you do. Good morning to you, Stephen McCoy. How are you? Eric Brubaker said, I love live shows. Me too. I love being able to come here every morning with you guys. Jojo in chat said, good morning and happy Friday. Good morning to you as well. Crypto Chef said, please, Around the Blockchain misses you. I would love to do Around the Blockchain, please go ahead over into their chat this afternoon at 5 o'clock and tell them Jebb wants to be on Around the Blockchain. Let me know. Like the picture in the background, Jebb. Yes, you can't see all of it, but this is actually, Sarah had this in college. It says, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And that is at the, again, you can't really see all of our house, but this is at the end of our dinner table. All right. My dream of first has been fulfilled. I can die happy. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen anytime soon. But hopefully when it does happen, because it will happen to all of us, you are happy. Is this pre-recorded? How come the CC can predict your speech so that you were going to say? It's not pre-recorded. I'm reading what you're saying right there, beta bot. All right. Well, we've got almost 300 people in chat already, and we have not even jumped into it. So I reckon we ought to go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap. Guys, right now, Bitcoin is trading at $23,972 and change. It's down 2% over the last 24 hours. That may seem like a bad thing, but hear me out. This may actually be something very, very good for Bitcoin. Ethereum is currently sitting at $1,664 and change, down 1% over the last 24 hours. We've got Binance sitting at 310, down 2.6% over the last 24 hours. Obviously, Binance has been going through some, how would you say, hurdles ever since Binance USD was attacked by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And in case you don't know, Binance USD is gradually dying over the last 7 days. You can see up here on the 13th of February, it was sitting at $16 billion in market capitalization. So there were essentially 16 billion Binance coin in circulation. That is continuing to drop gradually, and Binance coin will likely slide out of the top 100 within 2 months at this rate, if not even faster. It has lost 1/4 of its market capitalization in just the span of 4 days. So, if CoinMarketCap continues to track this, if it continues to track as it is currently on CoinMarketCap, Binance USD will be out of the top 10 within 3 days, by Monday, and will probably be out of the top 100 by the end of March, which is definitely a sad thing because that was a very important stablecoin for the ecosystem. But there's already news coming out that Binance is likely going to be dumping a lot of money into TUSD. If you're not familiar, TUSD is called TrueUSD. So it seems like they're going to try and prop up that stablecoin and potentially move some of their dealings into it. You can look over here at TrueUSD. It's currently ranked number 54. It is possible that this could be the next runner-up, but of course, it being a stablecoin, there's not a whole lot of ways that you could invest in that rally on TrueUSD's market capitalization because it is pegged to $1. But do not be surprised. Excuse me, I'm still sick. Do not be surprised over the next few weeks and months if TrueUSD starts to make a really big increase in market capitalization. You can see its market capitalization jumped by $50 million. That was Binance putting that money in there just about 24 hours ago. So keep an eye on TrueUSD. You may end up seeing it jump quite substantially. But of course, it jumping $50 million is nothing compared to BUSD shedding $3 billion in market capitalization in just the last 4 days. Anyway, moving right along here, over to the Bitcoin chart. If you'll remember yesterday's live stream, and if you didn't see it, you need to go see it because it was a lot of fun. Drop a 1 in chat if you were in the stream chat yesterday. It was a whole ton of fun. We were live right here. I'll just show you with vertical lines when we were live. We went live at 10 a.m. Eastern, as we do every single day, and we closed out the stream right here at like 11:07. So literally as soon as the stream cut, Bitcoin dropped substantially on the 1 minute chart. But we watched towards the second half of the stream, the third of the stream. We went and watched Bitcoin rally from $24,500 all the way up to $25,236 and actually break it. If you'll remember, we talked about how if Bitcoin was able to break, and we talked about this several days ago, excuse me, if Bitcoin was able to break above $22,808, then you would see Bitcoin rally to $25,000 and eventually $25,236. Well, as soon as Bitcoin broke that region of around $22,808, it rallied straight to $25,000, and then it rallied up to $25,236 before eventually going through a correction. I can actually show you here on the daily chart where those different numbers come from. Those numbers are going to be pulled from local highs that we set in about 6 months ago on Bitcoin. We set a local high here at $22,808 on the 13th of September 2022, and that local high up at $25,000 and topping out exactly at $25,236 was set on the about 15th of August of 2022. Bitcoin has broken through pretty much all of those levels and tested $25,236, which also sent the total cryptocurrency market capitalizations well above $1,031 billion, which is its first major level of resistance, that being set in the pre-FTX local highs that we set on November the 5th of last year. And also, briefly, it sent us above the local high that we set just recently at the beginning of the month, around February the 2nd, and above the local high that we set on the 13th of September at $1,052 billion in market capitalization. Right now, total cryptocurrency market cap is sitting just shy of that level set in September of last year at $1,052 billion. It's currently sitting at $1,050 billion. So we're just $2 billion away from breaking through that level once again. You can even see 1 minute ago, total cryptocurrency market capitalization attempted to go ahead and test that level. It has not, as of yet, broken that, but just an hour ago, we were up there. So keep in mind that things are looking quite bullish for total cryptocurrency market capitalization right now. Sneeze? Am I going to hold it in? I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm bringing you coffee and crypto today while being sick, and I've been sneezing so much lately, and I'm going to see if I can get through the entire stream without sneezing. Anyway, looking down here at Ethereum, we can also see that 1677 is the major level to look at on Ethereum. That comes from local tops that we set over the last 3 to 4 weeks, but it actually is definitively set by November 5th's all-time high, November 5th's local high in 2022, right before FTX imploded upon itself. Now, the reason that I'm making this stream today is because I want to bring a controversial opinion to you, and that is that this correction that we just witnessed on Bitcoin over almost exactly the last 24 hours, because it started at 11:06, 11:07, 11:08 yesterday, right about a minute after the stream ended. While the outro was rolling, Bitcoin just plummeted about $1,000 or so. I'm here to argue that that may actually be a very good thing for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets, and I'll tell you exactly why. If you look on this chart, you can see that Bitcoin has gotten, how would we say, a little carried away this year. Ever since January the 1st, Bitcoin to where it is now has rallied 45%. From absolute beginning to local top, Bitcoin has rallied 53%, nearly $9,000 in just 45 days. Bitcoin has rallied then almost $200 a day on average every single day this year. That can't continue forever. Bitcoin does need to have some kind of consolidative movement. It does need to have give the bears some opportunity to actually go through and short a little bit, get wrecked. Then when those shorts get liquidated, that causing bullish pressure, of course. But also, Bitcoin needs to give the bulls a little bit of time to actually lock in some of their gains. And that, I think, is what we're seeing right now. This drop that we witnessed yesterday, I don't think was a terrible thing. And the reason I don't think that this was an absolutely horrible thing was because this drop was, in my mind, the bulls taking profits from this huge rally that we just saw going back to February 13th, Valentine's Day Eve. Bitcoin rallied nearly $4,000 in 2.5 days, just almost 3 days. Bitcoin rallied nearly $4,000. We're talking almost 20%. Why then would we be terribly concerned about Bitcoin dropping $2,000 if it had just rallied $4,000? And by the way, also, why would we be concerned about Bitcoin falling down and finding support right here on top of all of this block of support that we had built, that we were currently then at the end of January, early February using as resistance, but now we're using it as support? $23,500 has thus been set as a critical level of support, and it makes a lot of sense too. Because if you look out to the daily chart, what you're going to see is that the VRVP is sitting out here with a huge amount of support. And that support is where? It's sitting right down here above $21,500. Then there's a little bit of a gap, but then that support comes back in a very strong way right here in between $22,500 and $23,500. This support bump right here on the VRVP was built by this trading and this trading. And in between this zone right here, Bitcoin has a very strong zone of support. If it falls through that zone of support, then you have to go back down to $21,500 for the market to be able to go through and find its next level of support. But if it holds above $23,500, then that means that it is establishing strong support up here above 22.5. It's setting up support right here. It's also setting up support in this zone right here, and it's building that foundational level and that foundational zone, I should even say, that Bitcoin is going to be able to use as support to blast off towards $28,545. That being the level that I said yesterday we would probably end up breaking through in the next month or two if we are able to get above 25,236 and confirm up there. Also, by the way, looking down here on the hourly chart, check out what's happening. We have a bullish MACD cross on hourly chart. We have RSI pushing up through its 14-hour moving average, pushing up above 50 as we speak. We're seeing a large green candle wick where we rallied all the way up to 24,250. Corrected. Now we're rallying again. And also, if we look out here on Lux Algo, then guess what you're going to find? You're going to find that we're in the top half of the EQ cloud, and we're riding the top half of the EQ cloud on the hourly chart. We haven't fallen below the center line of the EQ cloud. Now, we do have a confirmed sell signal. That much is true, and we want to keep that in mind. But if we're able to break to the upside here, above the trend catcher, then we will turn this from a strong sell signal indicated by the red to a weak sell signal indicated by the purple that we're in right now, break above the trend catcher, and then if we break above the trend catcher, we could have a strong buy signal come into play relatively easily if we just get to about $24,500, and from there, we could end up rallying straight back up here, and then guess what happened? All we did was we went through. Where are my Elliott waves? Where are my Elliott waves? My Elliott waves are in here, aren't they? All we did was we went through an Elliott wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rally. Now, we don't know where 4 and 5 will be yet, but we would end up going through our first correction of that this major impulse and then having the market rally all the way up there. If we do end up seeing that occur, that could very easily be the primer that takes us all the way up to $28,000 following some kind of model like this. Now, I don't use Elliott waves too often because I like to kind of freehand my technical analysis a little bit more, but the point is, if we did go through a small correction here, and if we do end up going back into a rally, and if we do end up breaking the trend catcher, having a 1-hour chart buy signal flash, and then on the 4-hourly chart, we maintain our current buy status, and we stay up here towards the top of the reversal zone, and we have EQ cloud turning bullish, and we have this buy signal continue to be valid because this sell signal was never validated by trend catcher being red. By the way, we are still technically under a buy signal, and if on the 4-hourly chart we see this MACD actually turn around and reverse and continue bullish, and if we see the RSI continuing to push to the upside, and if we see Bitcoin pushing up here towards the top of the band of the reversal zone, and if we see the reversal zones on the bottom start curving to the upside, if all of those things take place, then this correction will have actually been for the better. Why? Well, quite simply, if you go through a big correction, it can either be a bullish thing or it can be a bearish thing. But it really depends on, one, what direction you were moving in the first place. So, of course, we were moving to the upside, but it also depends heavily on the way that correction looks. Did Bitcoin correct the entire $4,600 that it gained over the last 4 days? No, it corrected $2,000, rallied almost 20%, corrected about 9%. So we've locked in gains. We're also sitting above a very important level of support, $23,500. On top of that, it looks like we may be able to lock in that level of support and continue to rally. Don't forget, a day ago, there was a huge amount of hype rallying us all the way up to 25,236. Do you really think that just completely vanished overnight? No, it's still there. It's sitting on the sidelines. These bulls are sitting here waiting for the next leg up, and the next time they see us knocking on $25,000 door, boom, we're going to break straight through it more than likely. We just need to have a little bit of patience. So if you were seeing this correction, you're thinking, oh crap, Bitcoin just messed up bad, and it's going to go through a huge correction. I wouldn't, if you're a bull, I wouldn't be too scared yet, and if you're a bear, I wouldn't get your hopes up because I do think the bulls are very strongly in control of this market, and I will be diving into some longer-term technical indicators and some macroeconomic factors that indicate that this correction is probably temporary. There are some corroborating factors that say that this could be the beginning of a bigger correction. I don't want to sit here and say that it's all weighted towards the bulls, but I think in general, even if we don't go into an uptrend today, tomorrow, or the next day, we're probably going to see a major one within the next month, and no better time than today based on the way that the chart is looking right now. So let's go ahead and read chat here for about 5 minutes, and then we will jump right back on into the charts, and we may even have time today to do some analysis on some altcoins if you are interested. By the way, don't forget, Club DeFi is launching this Monday, President's Day, February the 20th. Club DeFi will be coming back with principles of technical analysis. That course will be getting a few updates after launch, but I am really excited to bring it to you because it's definitely ready for you to see it. I will be doing a few updates for it afterwards. So this isn't a beta launch exactly. It's done, but I just want to change a few things, update a few videos. That'll probably take a month or two. From there are going to be other courses coming out to Club DeFi. Principles of technical analysis is not going to be the only one. We're going to have principles of trading, principles of on-chain analysis, and we're also going to, in eventuality, more than likely, have a principles of investing, and we're probably also going to have a principles of macroeconomic analysis or something of that sort, and also geopolitical analysis. All the different fields that I bring to you guys, I want to pour my heart and soul into it so that you guys see all of that. So thank you very much for your excitement about Club DeFi. Now, we have a very important question in chat, and that is Raphael Mitz94 said, how can I access CT2A? Check both of the links in the description box down below. One of them will work if you bought it with a one-time payment. The other one will work if you, on the off chance, bought CT2A with the 3-time payments, because they're actually technically 2 different courses to get the payment processing to work. So check both of those links. Try and log in with your normal login, and you should be able to get in just like that. By the way, let's go ahead and make sure we give a shout out to all of our green names. I gave a shout out to all of them that were here at first. It looks like Shadrach Frost and Adam Rorick are in chat. Shadrach Frost said, audio sounds good to me. Good. Audio seems fine. Adam Rorick said, thank you. I'm glad to know, excuse me, that is the case. Silent is in chat and said, zoinks! Zoinks! Oh, goodness. All right. Let's see. Justin Eubank said, good morning, Crypto Jebb. Happy Friday. Good morning to you as well, and happy Friday. Blake Watton said, Jebb. Hello. Jared MCB brought up some of the counter indicators I'm going to talk about in a second. Bearish divergence, CME gap not filled, Dixie pumping, traditional markets dropping, fundamentals not looking good. We're in for a decent correction. That is what you would think, and that is a very good argument. We're going to analyze that here in a second. Good morning, Jebb. Love to see you on Around the Blockchain. Oh, thank you. Good morning, Jebb, and all. What's up, Grand Roofing Incorporated? Hello. All right. The Dixie's also pumping. Yes, that's an important point. Let's see. What else we got here? Matt C in the house. What's up, Matt C? Hello, Matt C. Welcome to the chat, my friend. This is a honeydew work around the house weekend, but all good stuff. Stuff needs to get done. There you go. That's funny. All right. Cool. Let's go ahead and continue on with our stream here. As you guys know, I am decently excited about this rally. I do think that there is a good possibility of Bitcoin going into a rally and an uptrend over the next several days. And I'm going to kind of break down both of the arguments, because there is a bullish argument, there is a bearish argument. Ultimately, when you walk away from the stream, I want you to walk away from the stream having a solid understanding of both camps, the bullish camp and the bearish camp, so that you can go forth and you can make an informed decision for yourself as to whether or not you are with the bulls or you are with the bears. But my goal is for you to be well enough informed that you can make that decision on your own. One of the biggest mistakes that people make in cryptocurrency and in life is letting other people do their thinking for them. There's nothing wrong with letting somebody else teach you and guide you and help you and educate you, but at the end of the day, you need to make your own decision about what you think the market is going to do for yourselves. I probably will tell you mine, what I think is going to happen, but that's something that I can't just give you. You have to do the mental work to ascertain what you think is most likely, because that's where your financial sovereignty is going to come from. How are you possibly going to have financial sovereignty if you don't even have sovereignty over your own thought? That's something to think on and chew on for our modern world. Continuing on here, let's start with the bearish argument, and I'll show you why I don't necessarily totally agree with it, although it does have a lot of merit. Now, the argument for Bitcoin going through a good correction is this. Right now, the SPY and the Dixie are both moving in the exact wrong direction for Bitcoin to be going to the upside, and this is partially why we saw a correction yesterday and we were having trouble breaking through 25.5. You can see the SPY is this line up here. This shows that the SPY is in a pretty solid downtrend and did drop substantially yesterday. You can even see it over here on the S&P's chart itself. Over just the last couple of days, we keep opening lower. We're down like 8 points. Not looking the best. On top of that, if you look at Dixie, Dixie has rallied quite substantially all the way up to this resistance level that we talked about being likely to be tested, which was 104. From that point, if the Dixie and if the SPY are still going in the wrong direction, then yes, that is going to slow Bitcoin down in the short term. So hear me here. It is possible and potentially likely that Bitcoin will have a difficult time moving to the upside over the short term. Now, we'll get to the bullish camp in a minute, but let's just go ahead and lay out the bearish argument. Another thing, of course, to keep in mind is the fact that the monthly chart has just gone through a huge, bad, bearish death cross. In fact, I'm sorry, not the monthly chart, the weekly chart. We've just seen this terrible, theoretically horrible bearish death cross just occur on the weekly chart. Now, I'm sorry, I can't even hold in my my disagreement with this opinion, because this is actually a bullish counter indicator. So a lot of people are saying this is a bad thing. It's not. This is actually one of the indicators in my mind that we're going into a bull market. Talked about that yesterday. Not going to go into too much detail on it, but essentially every time these two indicators, these two moving averages, the 20 and the 50 and the 200 weekly moving average come this close, you're actually normally at the beginning of a bull market every single time they've ever gotten this close in the history of the entire industry. So I'm not really considering that one too bearish, but there are also a couple of other factors. For example, you have Ethereum right now hitting its 50 weekly moving average, and that is some very strong resistance that Ethereum has had to contend with before. On top of that, on Bitcoin, you're hitting the 50 weekly moving average and the 200 weekly moving average. That is convergent resistance right around the convergent resistance of $25,000, which is a quarter of $100,000, making that a big even and psychological barrier on top of our resistance level at 25,236. So you have extremely strong convergent resistance in between $25,000 and $25,250 for about 4 or 5 different reasons. That will likely be hard to break through, of course. And on top of all of that, you have a couple of other factors that are more macro, fundamental, geopolitical, whatever you want to say. The SEC launched an investigation and basically a direct declaration of war against Kraken's staking program and forced them to hand over $30 million in fines for having an unregistered security in the form of a staking program. That is a huge problem because, one, that $30 million should have been returned to the customers that Kraken earned it from. And on top of that, it also means that every single other staking program in the entire industry now has to go, ooh, I don't know if we can do business in the United States, because the United States is coming hard for staking programs. So you're going to see the likes of, what am I trying to say? Coinbase and several other major exchanges run into trouble and difficulty trying to run staking programs, because now they're going to be worried that Gary Gensler is going to come for them if they're operating them to United States-based customers. You're likely going to see staking programs go the way of leverage trading, where you have to go through KYC, and if not, you at least have to have an IP address that's not based in the United States. That will definitely provide some hurdles for the industry to continue its growth, considering staking is one of the main ways that many different cryptocurrencies even operate. Leverage trading is a way that people make a lot of money trading leverage or lose a lot of money trading leverage, but staking is actually crucial to the way that many different cryptocurrencies operate. So if there's a crusade in the States against staking programs, that's going to be very, how shall we say, unconducive to the technological innovation of this industry in this nation. On top of that, just a few days after that, Paxos was ordered to stop, well, they weren't actually ordered to stop minting BUSD, but in response to basically another attack by the Securities and Exchange Commission, Paxos stopped minting BUSD, which we talked about a little bit earlier. That's a huge deal, because when you stop minting, when Paxos stopped minting BUSD, that was the nail in the coffin, the death sentence for BUSD. So if you're in BUSD right now, I'm not saying it's going to depeg. It is kind of undergoing a controlled death spiral, but you're likely going to have to end up using a different stablecoin, because BUSD just isn't going to be around in a month, because they're not actually minting any more of it. So every time somebody sells BUSD, that BUSD is out of circulation forever because of the way that stablecoins operate. It's continuing to shrink, and it's already shrunk by a quarter in its market capitalization in just as much time. Now, something else to consider is that there is, of course, the fact that the CPI data came out and it was not very bullish. It was 0.1%. Ugh, yuck. Sucks. CPI sitting at 6.4%, indicating that next month we could actually, theoretically, see CPI turn around and jump to the upside. If that happens, a few things take place. Number one, you almost certainly see that be negative and bearish for the cryptocurrency market. We've seen how bullish Bitcoin has responded to bullish CPI data. We can only reason then that if we have bearish CPI data, then Bitcoin is going to respond in a bearish manner. On top of that, if we see CPI actually turn around and reverse and go up, and we see it go up to 6.5 or 6.6 or 6.7, which is very possible, then you almost certainly see even more rate hikes coming in from the effective federal funds rate. You almost certainly see it take longer for them to plateau rates, and you likely see a tightening of the balance sheet even more than you've already seen, and you are likely going to see a more hawkish monetary policy coming out of the Fed. If that takes place, that is not very bullish for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin needs an easy rate market with a decent amount of balance sheet expansion, that being quantitative easing, and also a relatively weak Dixie, because if the Dixie is directly proportional and directly correlated with the with the effective federal funds rate. If the effective federal funds rate is going up, then the Dixie's likely going to go up as well, and that's going to make, one, things harder on the stock market, two, things better for the Dixie, at least more bullish for the Dixie, and that would likely end up causing a tightening for Bitcoin. All of those factors are true. I want you to know all of those factors are true. There is one, however, bullish factor that I think could change your opinion on a lot of this, and we'll get to that here in just a second. But first, just to kind of wrap out the bearish narrative, there is a very strong argument that the bears have right now. I want to make that very clear, and it is one that you should take seriously. We can't just throw the bearish argument out the window and say, nope, Bitcoin's in a bull market now. That's the thing I'm preaching, is that we have not confirmed a bull market yet, and we're taking what we can get. We're taking the rallies that we can get. We're taking the new support levels and zones that we can get. We are hoping that we're going to go bullish, but it is definitely not guaranteed that we're just in a bull market yet. I'm hoping that we are. And I do believe there's reason to believe that that may be around the corner, even if it's not today, even if it's 6 months from now. But I do think it's getting close. But as to the bears, what I would say to you, we have been in a downtrend for almost 18 months. We are getting very close to the halving in about a year. Cyclically, based on market cycles, we are getting towards the end of the bear market based on historical market cycles and based on a plethora of different technical indicators. Those typically, on the long term, are the big drivers of crypto, and if there is a fundamental force going on, a lot of times that will serve as a break, but it will not actually serve to stop this market. Oftentimes, this market is heavily swayed by macro, especially outside of crypto, but a lot of times, the hype and the community is the thing that grows it from the inside out. And that's one of the beautiful things about cryptocurrency, is that it is able to grow from the inside out because it has such a core, tight-knit community, such as the people who are watching this stream right now. So here's the one thing that I think the bears are not considering, and that's the war in Russia and Ukraine. You might be thinking, Jebb, goodness gracious, why are you always talking about geopolitics on this channel? But the fact of the matter is, it is very, very important to the cryptocurrency ecosystem. The Russian-Ukrainian war right now is the single largest driver of geopolitics in our era. This basically starts the beginning of a new Cold War, between the United States and Russia and China as a bloc. Both of them are failing nations from a demographical standpoint, which is something that you can't really overcome. Both of them are nations that are going to go through extreme demographic constriction over the next 30 years, to the point where Russia may, in fact, implode upon itself and shatter as a modern state, and China is likely to lose 500 million people in the next 50 years. However, when you have two communist nations, and make no mistake, they're both communist nations, more or less. They're both dictatorships anyway. When you have two dictatorial communist nations backed into a corner where they don't have the ability to do anything but at least try and control the terms of their own death, that's a dangerous place, especially when both of them are nuclear weapon states, especially Russia. On top of that, there's a very important treaty between the United States and Russia that's been in place for decades. It's called the SMART Treaty, and it has to do with arms reductions. The United States and Russia used to have nuclear stockpiles like 4 times larger than they are right now, and that treaty is the treaty that the Russians would come over and inspect the Americans' nuclear facilities, and the Americans would go over and inspect the Russians' nuclear facilities, make sure that they were controlling the amount of nukes on the playing field. And as a result of that, the number of nuclear warheads on this planet has shrunk dramatically in the last 30 years. That treaty is almost wholly responsible for the shrinkage of that nuclear arsenal that we've seen in Russia and in the United States, which make up like 95% of all nukes on the planet, the rest of it being between France, a little bit in Britain, some in India, Pakistan. Israel more than likely has a nuclear deterrent. South Africa used to. Ukraine at one point did, because the Soviet Union had nukes there. They handed them back over to Russia because the Russians had the keys and the Ukrainians couldn't launch them anyway. And the Chinese, of course, being the third biggest player. That treaty is likely going to fall apart because diplomatic relations between the United States and Russia don't exist right now. I mean, you're talking about like the bully on the playground and the small kid. Like, they hate each other. They hate each other. Except the small kid on the playground is like willing to do anything. Like, he's nuts. You just got to be careful with that guy. That's Russia. Everybody is eyeing the nuclear arms race that's probably about to start again between Russia and the United States very closely, because that will potentially send us right back into a second Cold War. Here's the thing. The Cold War was one of the greatest things that ever happened to the Western economy. Why? Well, because one, it provided political unity. The West had the ability to unify itself at least around a common hatred of Russia and the Soviet Union. So the West was not constantly doing as much. It was doing a lot of infighting, but it wasn't doing quite as much infighting because it was constantly plagued by the threat of the Soviets launching an attack on West Germany. If there is a Cold War, that is a horrible thing, and we don't want the instability and uncertainty that that brings. But what that does also bring is it brings some kind of unity from the West towards the East against China, against Russia, and it forces the entire world to kind of devolve into this two-party factionalism where it's the West versus the East. And as morbid and egalitarian as it sounds, that does normally provide economic unity, and it does also normally provide a very strong market to grow in this world. On top of that, if we look at the Russia-Ukrainian war, Russia is failing bad, miserably, and when they do end up losing this war at this point, because as far as I can tell, I think the nail's already in the coffin, Russia is going to probably end up losing 500,000 men. They're on track to have already lost 200,000, which is just apoplectic. I mean, goodness gracious. That's going to cause that's going to gut them demographically in a way that they've already been gutted about 7 or 8 times in the last 90 years. And that's going to leave Russia belly up as far as a modern superpower, as far as a modern regional power, great power, and economy. And when Ukraine does take that territory back, because at this point they most likely are going to, Donetsk and Luhansk will be the harder regions, but Crimea will likely fall back into the Ukrainians' hands this year. I think that's very likely, actually. Then that is going to end up giving even more unity between NATO, because NATO all stood and backed Ukraine and basically turned Ukraine into their own little puppet state. Not puppet state, but into their own little protectorate that NATO was backing, and NATO knows that they'll probably have to back them for the next 20 to 30 years as Russia completely collapses in on itself. What does all that have to do with crypto? Because I know I just went off on a little bit of a, you might think it's a tangent, I'm going to tie back in. What does that have to do with crypto? U.S. inflationary policy, monetary policy, effective federal funds rate, CPI, GDP, global trade, trade deals, all of that. Which politicians are in office and what they focus on. All of it right now is being driven by 2 key factors. Number one, the shot relationship potential between the United States and China that's just been completely decimated over the last 18 months as Xi Jinping has been descending into even more madness. And also the war in Ukraine. We're coming up on the first anniversary of the war in Ukraine here in just about, what is today, the 17th, here in about a week. On February 24th, it'll be 1 year since the war began. And nations around the world are rallying together with Ukraine to fight off Russia because this is basically a proxy war. The West has a once-in-a-generation opportunity, once-in-a-100-year opportunity to drive a stake through the heart of the demographics and the economy of the Russian regional great power that it is. And they're not going to miss out on that opportunity. That is going to be a huge, as morbid as it is, and it is morbid, stimulus to the Western economies, and it is also going to cause the Western economies to not be as reliant on Russia and China, which will then shrink their own geopolitical dominance, prestige, and power over the West, because Russia and China provide a lot of goods to the West. Russia provides raw resources, China provides low and middling complexity manufacturing to the West. You're going to see both of those nations more or less cut off from the West within the next 10 years. Russia much sooner. China is going to kind of devolve into that on its own over the next 8 to 10 years, especially if they attack Taiwan. Then they'll definitely become a pariah. And that's going to lead to the West end up becoming not quite as successful because it doesn't have all of those raw resource inputs and all that manufacturing input from almost 2 billion people in those 2 nations, but it will end up becoming, theoretically anyway, more stable and more unified. That is going to provide, in the long run, a great backdrop for Bitcoin to grow, because Bitcoin grows best in a stable world, and the world is going through quite a bit of instability now, but in 5 years after that stability comes back, that's going to be very bullish for Bitcoin. On the short term, however, Russia is likely to lose ground to Ukraine in just the next 3 to 6 months as the spring offensive and counteroffensives come. When that comes, that is going to see a lot of confidence return to Bitcoin, because people want to see the geopolitical chessboard that we are playing right now look very bullish for the Ukrainians and look very bullish for the rest of the world and look bullish for the idea of stability in general, because before you invest on a risk-on asset, you want to make sure that there's not going to be a general nuclear exchange, because otherwise you go into gold and bottle caps, right? However, if Ukraine is pushing back Russia, then that is stability marching forward, essentially, is what the global business elite are going to see. They're going to see the return of some kind of stability into the global economy. And that is where you can start getting more risky with your investments, and that's where people will start being more likely to invest in something like Bitcoin. On top of that, and this is where the charts come in, it's not just the general change in the geopolitical landscape that is going to bring about a lot of change in Bitcoin. It's also just the simple fact that we are moving into a technically into bull market territory. If you'll remember yesterday, on the monthly chart, I broke down a few of the different points here that Bitcoin has gone through. This time period right here, this time period right here, and this time period right here. And then these lines right there, there, and there represent the halvings. As you can see, we were at this point when we entered a bull market about a year from the halving. At this point when we entered the bull market, a little over a year from the halving. Right now, we're just a little over a year from the halving. In the next 3 to 4 months, you're likely going to see a major uptrend just because of where we are in the halving cycle. And if you think I'm wrong, just look at the last two bull markets. They both started about a year before the halving cycle. And yes, the last bull market went through this big correction. That's possible too. It's possible we rally up to $35,000, $40,000 and then correct for a year. That's okay. That's still technically in the realm of possibility, and it's still technically in the realm of what a bull market looks like in the first place. On top of that, we're seeing the MACD converge bullish on itself in a way that we have not seen since March of 2019. Let me say that again. We have not seen the MACD converge bullish on itself the way that it is right now, as you can see right here in just the last 5 months, since March of 2019. Before then, the last time we saw MACD converge on itself like this was in about August of 2015. All of that being about a year before Bitcoin went into a major bull market. So I am here to posit to you, based on MACD, let me just kind of run through this on the longer term time frames. I'm here to propose to you that based on the 50 monthly moving average, based on the MACD converging bullish, based on RSI, based on where we are in the halving cycle, based on the war in Ukraine, based on the effective federal funds rate plateauing relatively soon, based on CPI coming down at least into the sixes, hopefully lower in general, but at least down into the sixes, on top of the fact that the SPY is not so much on the weekly, but on the course of the last 2 months in an uptrend and probably will continue that uptrend, on top of the fact that the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market has managed to do a lot of this rallying despite overwhelming FUD. Talking about FTX went bankrupt. We're talking about the FTT token, of course, went bankrupt with that. Or went down with that. Everybody who was in FTT or in FTX lost a lot of money. Everyone who was in BlockFi lost their money. People on Genesis, on Gemini, $900 million. Poof. Gone. Who knows when it'll come back? The SEC has launched an attacked Kraken and took $30 million from them, shut down their staking program. BUSD is collapsing in on itself. What is Bitcoin doing in the midst of all of this? It's rallying $9,000. Okay, so the point I'm making here is that Bitcoin is deciding to follow the bullish factors despite there being a pretty good bearish argument. Because there is a pretty good bearish argument. The bearish argument is, okay, Ukraine might be about to make advances in the next 3 to 6 months, but they're still the largest conflict on European soil that we've seen in 80 years. Okay, CPI might be coming down, but it's still at 6%. Okay, the effective federal fund rate may only be increasing by 25 basis points, but it's still sitting at 4.75. Bitcoin might be going through a bullish cross on the MACD, but it's still hugely bearish. It's below the zero level. I understand the bearish argument. The bearish argument is valid in a lot of cases. However, there's something in the psyche of the average trader and investor in the cryptocurrency industry that is saying, forget that. We're going to buy because we believe in this industry, because we believe in this product. There is something stirring in the hearts and minds and souls and spirits of those that are invested in the cryptocurrency industry that says, yeah, there's a bearish argument, but I'm willing to buy anyway, because a $24,000 Bitcoin, if it goes back to 69, that's a 3.5x, and I'm willing to take that bet. That's what a lot of people are saying right now. A lot of people in their hearts are saying, yeah, but I believe. I'm one of them. I do believe that Bitcoin's going to go into a bull market in the next year. I don't know that it's going to happen right now. It may be that Bitcoin has trouble getting above 25,236 in the next week. That's possible. I couldn't tell you exactly. But I do think in the next 3 months, Bitcoin will be above that level. I do think in the next 12 months, Bitcoin will be above $30,000 or $40,000. I do think in the next 2 years, you'll see a new all-time high hit. And it makes sense because it's all following with the halving cycles, which this might be the last time the halving cycle is really important because the halvings are getting less and less relevant every single year. But It's also ingrained in the history and in the conversation of cryptocurrency technical analysis, so maybe not. But regardless, in the next year, I think you're going to see a lot of appreciation on Bitcoin. In 14 months from now, when we do see the next halving, I think you're going to see Bitcoin sitting at a much higher level than it is right now, and that should be music to any investor's ears. Let's go ahead and read chat. All right. Play Kid and Superhero Parents said, smart dude, Jebb, you got my like. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Shadrach Frost said, smash the like button and show love and respect to Jebb for his daily hard work and effort to help educate us. Thank you. Let's see here. Let's give Zelensky an Oscar for his performance. Yeah, definitely a lot of kinetic energy can melt tank. Newer version of Smetch has entered the battlefield with 150-kilometer range. Let's see. Are we going to revisit 19K for CME gap? That is another part of the bearish argument that I think is possible. If it did, I don't think we would be down there for very long. What about the Golden Cross about to happen on the daily? The Golden Cross has already happened on the daily. Actually, I'll show you. This is another part of the bullish argument. The Golden Cross happened on the daily back on the 6th of February. That Golden Cross is very significant because the last times that we saw Golden Crosses on Bitcoin, Bitcoin was trading at 45,000 and went to 69,000. Before that, the last time we saw a Golden Cross, Bitcoin was trading at 8,600. We went to 65,000. This Golden Cross is extremely important. And yes, is absolutely one of the things I'm looking at right now. Let's see. I still have friends that think I'm crazy for investing so much. I don't care what they say. It's important to take counsel from other people because even if somebody doesn't understand crypto, they might understand finance. They might say, hey, look, you're investing more money than you really should be right now. Or, hey, look, you need to work on your income. Hey, you need more savings before you do your own thinking for you, and sometimes, yes, learn some hard lessons. Don't just ignore other people's counsel, but yes, you do need to make your own decision. 140,000 men so far. That's what I'm seeing is between 100 and 160,000 KIA on the Russian side, which is, yeah, it's sad. Where is the guaranteed bull market line? I mean, I suppose if you're going to guarantee anything, it'd be $70,000 because that'd be above all-time high. You can't ever really guarantee it. But yeah. Let's see. 3-day weekend, anyone else? Grand Roofing said, did the stream start a little late or is YouTube not letting me get into it? The stream did start a few minutes late. I apologize for that. All right. Let's see. Thanks for touching on the macro geopolitical impacts, factors that impact the crypto market. Of course. Of course. Let's see. In the past, BTC has been bearish leading up to the start of the halving and then flipped to bullish. Yes, it has. And that is possible that Bitcoin goes through a major rally, goes through a bearishness, and then moves straight into the halving, going bearish, and then it turns around and goes bullish. That's true. Here's a great question. I talked about this yesterday, but I can talk about it again. So why is Golden Cross on daily bullish, but Death Cross on weekly not bearish? We have never seen Death Cross on weekly. Great question. It's a great question. I've gotten that a lot, and you might think I'm crazy, but I do think that. Whereas on the weekly chart, the 50 crossing below the 200 is just not that big of a deal, and in fact, it is actually a bullish indicator. So why would a Golden Cross be bullish on the daily chart and then a Death Cross be bullish on the weekly chart? That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense on the surface. Well, if you dive deeper into it, what you're going to find is that in the history of the Golden Crosses on the daily chart, you typically are finding a Golden Cross on the daily chart enter us into a major uptrend. I'll just draw all of the Golden Crosses that are not weeded out by other fundamental factors right now. For example, there was a Golden Cross here. That was a month before the pandemic hit its hotspot, so this Golden Cross did get weeded out. But to be honest with you, this Golden Cross, this is just a repeat of that Golden Cross. If not for the pandemic, Bitcoin would have just done this instead of doing this. So you can kind of just consider these two to be the same Golden Cross, so I'll just weed that out. because again, that was geopolitics coming into play. That was the macro coming into play. Same thing back here. We saw two golden crosses. One of them was basically just a repeat of the other one just a few months later. So I'm not going to include this first one. It was a little bit of a fake out. I don't remember back in 2015, but I think there was some kind of bearish news that came out. Bitcoin saw one more drop and then it went to the bull market. So again, showing all of the golden crosses that are really actually significant in history. There are a few of them that you just kind of weed out because of one reason or another. But if you just go out to the monthly chart, you look at all these golden crosses on the daily chart, just take a look at what they all do. This golden cross led to a 22,000% rally. Gee, wouldn't we love to see that again? This one ran to an 8,500% rally. This one, 250% rally, the smallest yet, but still 250%. That one, nearly 700%. This one, 56%. Now we've seen another golden cross today. Why would we expect anything less than what we've seen over the last multitude of golden crosses? It is possible, however, I think it to be somewhat unlikely, that we do see something like what happened here, where we had a golden cross, but then something geopolitically, macro or otherwise, causes a major drop, and then 3 to 6 months later, we see another golden cross. That's the one that actually comes in and completely flat. We had the market cross bullish, and then it stayed right there next to the 200. And also, this is not long after Mt. Gox got hacked, so you wouldn't have really traded this one. Otherwise, the other two times that we've seen golden crosses that didn't actually come to play, into fruition, we saw a golden cross that did and saw us rally several 100%, if not several 1,000%, less than 6 months later. So we can ascertain from that the golden crosses on the daily chart are very important. Now the question becomes, what about the death crosses on the weekly chart? Well, we've never had one, except there's one taking place right now. The best we can do is we can look at the near approaches between the 50 and the 200 moving averages in history. You're going to find a near approach right here in October of 2022. You're also going to find a near approach right here in May of 2019, and you're also going to find a near approach right here in November of 2015. I'll just go ahead and color these lines a different color so that you can see the difference. We'll make them this kind of yellow or green or whatever color. I am colorblind, so I could be wrong on that. I think it's yellow, but we shall see. Look at these colors right here. These are the 3 times in history that these two moving averages have come close. Now, of course, we've seen them come very close. In fact, they've crossed just recently. If we look into history here and we look at the times that they've come close, the first time they came very close like this, Bitcoin would go on to rally 5,000%. I wouldn't call that bearish exactly. From here, they came very close. Bitcoin rallied 80%. And this was actually the beginning of a bull market. It just took about another year for it to really get going. And then we saw them come pretty close right here. Within 180 days, we rallied 500%. So the 3 times in history that these moving averages have come close, we've seen huge rallies. The reason that these have actually crossed this time is because our last bull market, percentage-wise, from bottom to top, was nowhere near as large as the previous ones, which meant that the market top got further away in the first 2 bull markets from the 200 moving average than it did in the more recent one. What do I mean by that? Well, in this market top, you would have had to decline by over 95% to get to the 200 moving average if you were even able to extrapolate it that far back. If you extrapolate the 200 moving average back, it would probably be somewhere like right here. You would have to go down 96% to get to it, which meant that when these two came very close, the 50 was way further away from the 200 than it was before, and the market had to drop a really long way to get there. In the 2017 bull market, you would have had to see the market drop 94% to get down to the 200 moving average, meaning that we were hugely far away from the 200 moving average. Why? Because the market rallied 10,000% in 2 days. Sorry, 2 years. 2 days, that would have been crazy. Which meant that we were hugely far away from the 200 moving average, but the 50 is a lot more snappy because it's 1/4 of the length, which meant that it was able to stay further away from the 200. This time, when we hit all-time high, whether you measure from this all-time high or this all-time high, we were only 82% away from the bottom. In fact, at this all-time high, we were only 75% away from that bottom, if you will, at the 200 moving average, which meant that the 50 was not proportionally as far away from the 200, which means that the 200 is more likely to do something like this rather than do something like this, because we went through proportionally an even smaller bear market than we did in the last bull market. This bull market, we were in a bear market. We were in a bear market for a year. We saw an 84% drop. Here we were in a bear market for just shy of a year, and we saw a 77% drop. The bear market was not as severe. Why? Because the bull market was not as severe, which changes the dynamics of the 50 and the 200 weekly moving averages, which means that them crossing should be related to the idea of them coming very close in the previous bear markets. And when they did, a bull market was in the very process of beginning. So I'm not concerned about that bearish death cross on the weekly chart because looking at the historicity of the 50 and the 200 crossing on the daily chart shows us that the golden cross is very important and significant to the overall health and bull market trend on Bitcoin, and the death cross, or the close approach, if you will, is actually akin to the beginning of a bull market because the amount of time it takes for the 50 to dive all the way down to the 200 is normally well over a year and a half. And by that point in time where they do come close, the bear market is already over. That would be my take on that. All right. All right. Weekly death cross is bad in stock market, though. That's true. The stock market also moves about 5 times slower than Bitcoin. So you have to look at the technical analysis within its context. We're not looking at the context of the stock market. We're looking at the context of Bitcoin because it will be different on different charts. All right, but great question, the crypto Heffy. Great question. Okay, guys, if you enjoyed today's stream, I want you to do a couple things for me. Number 1, smash that like button. Let's see if we can get to 300 likes. Number 2, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned because we go live 5 days a week at 10 a.m. Eastern every single weekday. And also sign up for Lux Algo. You can use the link in the description box down below. It is my favorite technical indicator package, and you are going to get a lot of use out of it. And also stay tuned because Club DeFi is returning on Monday with Principles of Technical Analysis being the first course launched. I'm hoping to get the next course launched in the next 3 months or so, but I can't really promise anything right now. I really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I am going to go ahead and wrap it out, but before I do, I just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good